teach you how to tune the violin only with the A string. So you will learn how to do this after you've already learned how to tune the violin with the digital dial tuner. This way of tuning that I'm going to show you right now uses more of your ear. And I'm going to help you be able to use your ear so you can learn how to rely on your ear and not a digital dial tuner when you tune your violin. Now, as you notice, if you go to an orchestra concert, they always have an oboe play the A, and then everybody tunes to that A. So it's a very, very good idea for you to learn how to be able to tune your violin with just the A string. So you can still use your digital dial tuner to tune the A string to get started, and you would either tune it at 440, 441, and 442, your choice and preference. It's good to always start with 440 and then kind of learn after that if you prefer something else. Okay, so get your A tuned. Now I'm going to show you, I'm tuning my A with a metronome tuner, and this tuner, you have a choice between 440 and 445. I personally prefer 441, so I'm going to tune to 441. And you just play the A with the tuner, get it to play here, and then you hear that and you match your pitch with this pitch. So those are your two choices of how to get your A string in tune, either with the digital dial tuner or a metronome that has the tone that you can tune to, okay? So you have your A tuned, all ready to go, and I'm going to show you what to do next. What you're going to do is actually play your A and D string together, because your D string is going to be your next string that you'll tune after you have your A string tuned, okay? Now, when you go over to play the D string, you want to set up your left hand here on the scroll, if you're using your pegs, and you put your thumb and your index finger around the D peg. Now, you're probably thinking, well, how do I know where the D peg is? Okay, check out your violin here, all right? Follow your string up and into what's called the peg box. Look to see where it goes. Where does it lead? What peg is it attached to? Okay, and you'll find that it is this peg here on your violin. If it's not this peg, your string is not in the right place. It's not wound to the right peg, but the D peg is right here, okay? Now, you could also probably be wondering, hey, why the peg and not the fine tuner? If you have fine tuners, go for it and use a fine tuner. Actually, a good question is, how do I know when to use a peg and how do I know when to use a fine tuner? Well, if you think about it, the fine tuner is called a fine tuner. That's not just a name they threw out for the fine tuner. It's given that name because it tunes fine, which means it tunes in you can get really, really detailed, really, really tight and snug with that fine tuner, as opposed to a peg. When you move the peg, it's actually going to really move the string quite a bit. And you can even think about it, the size of the peg, if you move the peg, is really going to move the string. So the pegs are great to use if your violin's really out of tune and you have an option to either use a fine tuner or a peg. Now, I don't have the option. My violin, most violins, when you get up into professional violins, you don't have your fine tuners all across here on the tailpiece because it's not necessary. You may see some professional players have an E string tuner, fine tuner, and an A string fine tuner, which is really excellent. It's a very good idea to get that A string really, really in tune. The A string fine tuner is a good idea. But the D and G, you really don't need fine tuners on them once you get used to really using your pegs. Okay, so so let's go back to getting that D string in tune. Now, what you want to listen for are the sound waves, okay? And your violin is going to be so happy that the strings are really lined up that you're going to hear the vibration. You're going to hear these sound waves. Some violins, you can really, really hear it a lot, and you just, basically what you're listening for, I'll kind of give you a visual of what you're listening for. When you play your A and D together, or your D and G or A and E, when they're out of tune, you're going to kind of hear a sound wave like this. It's going to be a really big sound wave, okay? Now, when they start to line up, the sound wave gets smaller, 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 and smaller. Eventually, it'll just be in sync, so you don't hear the big sound wave, okay? Now, it may take a little bit of time for you to be able to hear that, but that's what I want you to start to listen for when you're tuning your violin without relying upon a digital dial tuner, okay? And a great test is just to do this every day, really listen to your sound waves, and then once you start to hear it and you start to hear that they sync up and you feel like it's in tune, then test yourself, then break out that digital dial tuner and check to make sure that you are correct, okay, with your tuning. And every day you will get closer and closer and more accurate with your tuning, because it's just natural. Your ear is going to be able to listen to those waves, okay? So for an example, I'm going to put my violin out of tune. Okay. So I play my A and D string together. Now, my ear knows, and I also know because of the way I went out of tune, that I need to go higher with that D string, okay, to make it line up. It doesn't sit right to me. I feel really anxious, unsettled, and I cannot wait to get this in tune. So how do you know which direction to go with the peg? Well, when you need to go higher, you go away from you. When you need to go lower, you bring the peg closer to you, okay? So I need to put this peg away from me. Now, I'm going to show you exactly what I'm doing with my left hand when I do this, because I've had so many students not be able to tune their violins because they didn't know what to do with their left hand physically. And this is very, very important to know also how to get leverage, because sometimes the peg can be a little difficult to turn. So you do need to get some leverage, because if you don't have leverage, it's going to be more difficult. So without further ado, I'll just show you what I'm doing here. As I said, I have my thumb and index finger on the peg, okay? This guy's just kind of hanging out. This guy is on the scroll, and as you notice, my pinky is on the other side of the scroll. That's where the leverage is, okay? So that's how you're going to get that leverage, and you're going to have the leverage with these two fingers. This is on the end of the scroll, and this is on the other side of the scroll. You're going to have the leverage to turn your peg, okay? So now I hear those sound waves and they're still not matching up. So as you just saw, I moved the peg back and forth because it's a little sticky, and I wanted to make sure that it was in the exact spot, so I had to kind of loosen it a little bit to get it going. Now, that D string is still just a little bit low, and because I don't have a fine tuner to tune it up, I can try with a peg, and it goes too sharp, so I need to go low. And there we go. Now, as you notice, I went too sharp, then I went low, and I had to kind of just do a little wiggle for it to get in the right spot. And that is heaven upon it. Okay? So you can really hear those sound waves. Now what I'm doing is I just made it higher by pinching down up here on the top. Now this is because I don't have a fine tuner to demonstrate this to you. You can really hear the sound waves not sinking in, so it needs to be lower. We'll give it just a little tug. Wow. Again, we have heaven. Absolutely beautiful. So the violin is tuned to the interval of a perfect fifth, that A to the D. Perfect fifth. The intervals that are perfect fourth, perfect fifths, and octaves, 4, 5, and octaves. Now, if you need to review, go back to the How to Read Music interval video to learn more about intervals. But you're listening to that perfect fifth. Now, why do I bring this up? To tell you that the violin is tuned to perfect fifths. When perfect fifths and perfect fourths and octaves are so in tune, there's an expansive quality to it. It's like the doors have opened. It's like in the sky. It's a real cloudy, black cloudy day, and just a sliver of sun is shining through, and it's starting to open up. That's what a perfect interval sounds like. It has an expansive opening quality. It's just amazing. And to me, it does sound like absolute peace, love, contentment, joy, heaven. jam upon it. It's just amazing when they're perfectly in tune. So that's what you want to listen for, okay? So we have the A and D. All right, so let's go to the G string. Now, you keep your hand in the same way. I did bring, just naturally, my ring finger comes around on this side, my pinky's on this side. So for the D, my ring finger was at the end of the scroll. For the G peg here, my ring finger comes around. Now, a lot of times the G pegs can be a little bit more difficult to turn, and if you are absolutely having an impossible time turning your pegs, then you just need to take your violin to a luthier and have them kind of help you out, because it shouldn't be difficult to turn the pegs, like impossible. It might be small, difficult, but not impossible. And just a story about that, I had a student who couldn't turn her pegs. I taught her how to do this, and it helped, but she really just didn't have a lot of strength in your left hand. So like many other things with the violin, in order to develop the strength in your left hand to tune with the pegs, it's just practice, and you have to just do it every day to help get those muscles developed to turn the pegs. Like I said, if it's impossible, if it's terribly difficult, head over to your luthier and they can help you out, okay? So back to that G string. Have your hand lined up, thumb, index finger on the peg, your ring finger on the scroll, your pinky here so you have a little bit of leverage, and let's check it out. All right, mine's already in tune, but we'll get it a little out of tune, so, okay. Oh, just ugly. Isn't that ugly? It makes the cells in my legs just not happy. So, now I know it needs to go higher, but if you play and you don't know, okay, I don't know, my ear's not 100% trained, do I go higher or lower? Move your peg around, and then you'll be able to hear that, okay? So make a guess. You have a 50-50 chance of being right, all right? So think, okay, what does that sound like to me? I think it needs to go higher. Go higher and see if it sounds better. If it doesn't, then go lower, okay? So I'm gonna go higher. Okay, I'm gonna stop right here so you hear that. Sounds like a sick cow almost. And then there's heaven. Wow, it's really amazing. When those vibrational frequencies just line up together like that, when it's in tune right then and there, I felt it just right like here in my heart, which actually it's more of a chakra and not the heart, but that's your D and G string lining up, okay? Now let's head on over to the A and E. Now this I'm going to demonstrate with the fine tuner because it's really pretty close. Now with your fine tuner, how do you know which direction to go? And how do I tune and play at the same time? Because it can be kind of challenging. Okay, a lot of times students when they first start, they like use the fine tuner and then they bring it up, and then they use the fine tuner, they bring it up, and that's really cumbersome and not comfortable, and it takes a lot of time. So when you tune your A and your E string together, you want to make sure you have that awesome violin hold, which I'm sure you do after watching all my violin hold videos, okay? You have that awesome violin hold, your left hand is completely free, okay? You're holding the violin here. So when you bow, okay, you can bow, you can see where my left hand goes, it's coming up and in, right through here, so it can get to the fine tuner. Okay, you don't want to go around because that's awkward and you're going to hit the bow and your bow's not going to be able to be free. It's very important, the bow can still bow freely. So you have to just kind of do your little test. 1, have your violin hold. 2, bow on the A and the E, left hand free for 3. 4, bring your left hand in and under and through, and then you're here on the fine tuner, okay? So now the fine tuner, to tune with a fine tuner, you want to turn to the right, okay, to go higher. It's just like the saying, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Righty-tighty to go higher, lefty-loosey to go lower, all right? So you can listen and think, which direction should I go? And a great way to do this is actually play and then go very, very slowly in the direction that you need to go. If you go fast and you turn really quickly, you're not going to really have a chance to hear and get to know those sound waves, okay? So I did that very, very slowly, I'm going to do it again. We'll turn it back up, okay? Okay, so I'll do it really, really slow. You can hear those sound waves. Now when you listen to these sound waves between the A and E, they're going to be a little bit more like this. The G and D, they're like, whoa, whoa, really big and rolly, okay? But the A and E, they're a little bit more narrow, okay? So they're a little bit faster and narrow. Okay, and you just listen. When it sinks in, then you're really in tune. And you can check, again, check with your tuner, your digital dial tuner, when you're doing this and you're practicing this. To make sure, just to check your accuracy, make sure you're right on point, okay? So we covered a lot in this video, and a lot of things that sometimes don't get talked about with the tuning of the violin. Exactly how to have your hand, how to have leverage, how to tune with the E string at the same time while you're playing. I know that this video will be very helpful for you to really explore the journey of tuning the violin. And to also listen to those wavelengths, really listen, get inside and out of the vibrational frequencies that are produced by the instrument. Feel how they affect you when you tune. Like when it's out of tune, how do you feel physically? When it's in tune, how do you feel physically? If you're more of a visual person, what do you see? You can actually see colors with pitches. Do this if you really want to get to know this very well, just make sure you reserve about 5 minutes of your practice time to explore the tuning of the violin. How does it affect you? How do you feel with these pitches? And then test yourself, on your accuracy. And you'll be amazed at how quickly you'll progress in the tuning of your violin, okay? So have fun, enjoy, and until I see you again in another video or online training, remember, be true, be you, be.